Let her sleep on the couch. Those 5 words shattered everything I thought I knew about family love. I was standing behind the kitchen door of the beach house I had rented with my own savings, listening to my daughter-in-law divide up the rooms as if she were the owner. Her mother gets the master. The kids can take the back bedroom. Daniel and I will take the one with the balcony, and let her sleep on the couch. She didn't even say my name. Just her. Like I was an unwanted guest, not the woman who had raised her husband and paid for this entire vacation. My name is Eleanor Brooks. I'm 67 years old, and 3 months ago I learned that sometimes the deepest wounds come not from strangers, but from those you love the most. This trip was supposed to be a dream, a week in a quiet Florida beach house where I could finally spend time with my son Daniel, his wife Vanessa, and my 2 grandchildren. I imagined morning walks by the shore, laughter around the dinner table, and memories we'd cherish for years. Instead, I stood frozen behind that door, my heart pounding as I listened to Vanessa mock me on the phone. "Mom, you'll see. She won't complain. She's one of those old ladies who does anything to be liked. She even paid for the house without us asking." Each word hit harder than the last. The woman who had once smiled at me like a daughter was now treating me like a burden. I leaned against the doorframe, feeling the strength drain from my legs. I had spent my entire life working double shifts, sewing uniforms at the factory so Daniel could have an education, selling my gold earrings to help him start his business. Every wrinkle on my hands told the story of sacrifice. And yet here I was, being told I should sleep on a couch in the house I had paid for. That night, as the waves crashed softly against the shore outside, I watched from the kitchen window while they toasted on the terrace with the wine I had bought. They were laughing, celebrating their free vacation while I stood alone, invisible. For the first time since my husband passed away, I didn't cry out of sadness, I cried out of anger. Something inside me cracked open. I was done being the quiet, agreeable mother who never caused trouble. But Vanessa made one mistake that night, one that would change everything. She left her cell phone unlocked on the kitchen counter, and what I found on that phone before sunrise would not only change my life, it would destroy the perfect world she thought she had built. To understand how I ended up standing behind that kitchen door, you need to know who I was before that night. My story began more than 40 years ago when I became a widow at just 23. My husband Mark died in a construction accident, leaving me with an 8-month-old baby and a mountain of debt. That baby was Daniel, my entire reason for living. I woke up every day before dawn, took the bus to the textile factory, and worked 8 hours stitching school uniforms. After that, I cleaned offices until late at night. My hands bled, my back ached, but every dollar I earned had Daniel's name on it. When he told me at 5 years old that he wanted to be an engineer, I promised him he would be, even if it meant selling everything I owned. I sold my wedding ring to pay for his high school. I sold my earrings to buy his college textbooks. And when he graduated with honors, I sat in the front row wearing a mended dress, crying tears of pride. Daniel was a good son, respectful, hardworking, the kind of man every mother dreams of raising. After college, he found a job at an engineering firm. 2 years later, he came home one evening, his eyes shining with excitement. "Mom, I want to start my own company," he said. "I have a partner and a plan. I just need a little help to get started." I didn't hesitate. I handed him the $1,200 I had saved over 20 years. That money was my safety net, but for him, it became the foundation of his future. Within a few years, Daniel's company took off. He bought a house, a new truck, and nice suits for work. I still lived in the same small 2-bedroom home, but I didn't mind. Seeing him succeed was enough. I thought my sacrifices had finally paid off. And for a while they had, until Vanessa entered our lives. I first met Vanessa one Sunday after church. Daniel introduced her to me in the courtyard, his arm proudly around her shoulders. She was beautiful, confident, and dressed like someone who knew her worth. "Mom," Daniel said, his voice full of affection, "this is Vanessa. She works as a financial manager at a bank." Vanessa smiled warmly and reached for my hands. "Mrs. Brooks, I've heard so much about you. Daniel always says he owes everything to your hard work." Her voice was sweet, her manners impeccable. I remember thinking how lucky my son was. She seemed perfect, too perfect, perhaps. At first, everything felt wonderful. She visited often, helped me cook, asked about my health. But little by little, something began to change. The warmth in her voice turned into polite distance. The smiles became shorter, the calls less frequent. Daniel began missing our Sunday lunches. Vanessa's family already made plans, he'd say apologetically. I understood, or at least I told myself I did. Newlyweds needed time to build their life. But soon the small signs became impossible to ignore. The family dinners I once hosted stopped happening. Vanessa would organize gatherings and conveniently forget to invite me. Oh, Mrs. Brooks, I'm so sorry, it completely slipped my mind. Yet her parents, her sisters, and her cousins were always there. Even Daniel's home began to change. The photos of him as a child disappeared from the walls. The pillows I had knitted were replaced with sleek designer ones. When I visited, I no longer felt welcome. I felt like an intruder. The worst part came when my grandchildren were born, Liam and Sophie. They became the center of my world, my reason to keep going. But Vanessa found a way to control even that. The kids need structure, she told me one day. Too many visits confuse them. It's better if they come on weekends. Weekends became once a month. Once a month turned into holidays only. Eventually, I saw them so rarely that they stopped running into my arms when they saw me. By my 65th birthday, I was no longer a part of their daily life. That evening I waited all day for Daniel and the kids to visit. I cooked his favorite meal, set the table with my best dishes, and even bought a small cake. He arrived alone, late at night, full of guilt. Sorry, Mom, he said. Vanessa's family had a birthday dinner, and we couldn't get away. That was the moment I realized I wasn't family anymore. I was an afterthought, a shadow in their busy lives. 3 years passed after that lonely birthday dinner. I told myself to stay quiet, to be the peaceful mother-in-law who never caused tension. I convinced myself that patience and kindness would eventually bring my family back to me. Then one afternoon, out of nowhere, Vanessa called. Hi, Mom, she said in that polished, cheerful tone I hadn't heard in years. How are you feeling these days? For a moment, my heart lifted. Maybe things were changing. I've been thinking, she continued. It's been so long since we've all spent real family time together. What do you think about a little vacation? Just us, the kids, and my parents? A week by the beach, sun? Oh, scene. Laughter. Doesn't that sound wonderful? I could barely contain my excitement. That sounds lovely, dear. I'd love that. She hesitated just a second, just long enough for me to sense what was coming next. Well, the thing is, she said softly, with the kids' school costs and Daniel's business expansion, money is a little tight this month. We were thinking of maybe a small weekend at a modest hotel. Nothing fancy. A weekend? My heart sank. I had already pictured the kids building sandcastles and Daniel relaxing by the waves. Then I asked the question that sealed my fate. How much would a full week in a house like that cost? Oh, Mrs. Brooks, I don't want to burden you, she said quickly. Maybe around $3,500. But please don't worry, we'll figure something out. $3,500. Exactly the amount I had saved over the past 3 years from my pension, my emergency fund. The money I had promised myself I would use for something special one day. I heard my own voice before I could stop it. You know what, Vanessa? I'll pay for it. It will be my gift to all of us. There was a pause, barely a heartbeat long, but I could almost hear her smile through the phone. Oh, Mrs. Brooks, that's incredibly generous. You're the sweetest. Daniel and the kids will be thrilled. That night, I went to bed with a smile on my face. For the first time in years, I felt included. I imagined family dinners by the ocean, my grandchildren laughing, Daniel thanking me for making this possible. I didn't realize that I had just paid for my own humiliation. What I thought would bring my family together would soon tear everything apart. When we arrived in Florida, I felt like a child again, nervous, excited, full of hope. The house was stunning, white walls, tall palm trees, and wide windows that opened straight to the sea. I could almost taste the salt in the breeze. For a brief moment, I believed I had done something right. Vanessa was the first to step out of the car. She took the keys from the driver and walked through the front door, as if she owned the place. Kids, come see your rooms, she called out, her voice bright and commanding. Daniel carried the luggage in silence while I followed behind with my small suitcase, trying to keep up. Mom, Vanessa said, turning to me with that overly sweet smile, you can take the guest room. It's nice and cool, and it even has a small bathroom. The guest room, in the house I had paid for. I forced a smile. That's fine, dear. Whatever works for everyone. But the real blow came an hour later, when a taxi pulled up outside. A woman stepped out, Vanessa's mother, Marjorie, holding 2 large suitcases. Sweetheart, what a gorgeous house, she exclaimed. "The ocean view is perfect for my morning yoga." My stomach tightened. Vanessa ran to greet her and, without hesitation, announced, "Mom, I saved the master bedroom for you. You'll love it." The master bedroom, not for me, the one who paid, but for her mother. I looked at Daniel, hoping for him to say something, to remind his wife that this trip was supposed to be our family time, but he just smiled awkwardly and said nothing. That evening, while everyone drank wine on the terrace, I stood alone by the kitchen window. I could hear Vanessa and her mother laughing as they planned the week. Every activity, every meal, every schedule was decided without me. I wasn't asked what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. It was as if I didn't exist. When Marjorie suggested I stay home the next day because the heat might be too much for me, something inside me burned. I was not fragile. I had worked on my feet for 30 years without rest, but I said nothing. Not yet. That night, while everyone slept peacefully, I lay awake in my so-called guest room, listening to the ocean. I had spent $3,500 for this vacation to be treated like a stranger in my own reservation. I promised myself that I would not cry again, but as the laughter from the terrace echoed through the night, I couldn't stop the tears that came. What I didn't know was that the real humiliation hadn't even begun. It would arrive the next day, wrapped in polite smiles and a single sentence that would break me completely. "You don't mind giving up your room, right?" The next day began beautifully. The sky was painted in soft pinks and golds, and the children were bubbling with excitement about visiting the ancient ruins nearby. I told myself to stay calm, to focus on the kids, to enjoy at least one day of the vacation I had dreamed of. But by evening, that fragile peace shattered. When we returned from the day trip, tired and sunburned, I went to my room to take a shower. What I found made my heart stop. My clothes were packed neatly into my suitcase, sitting on the bed, as if I were being evicted. "Vanessa," I called, my voice trembling. She appeared at the door with that same rehearsed smile. "Oh, Mrs. Brooks, I'm so sorry. I forgot to tell you my cousin and her husband surprised us. They just arrived for their honeymoon, and we had no choice but to give them a room. You don't mind sleeping on the couch, do you?" The couch. Again. I stared at her in disbelief. "Vanessa, I paid for this house. Surely there's another solution." She waved her hand dismissively. "The sofa is so comfortable. It even has memory foam. You'll love it. You're always saying you don't need much to be happy." Before I could answer, Daniel came in, exhausted from carrying the kids. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Perfect," Vanessa replied quickly. "Mom's just helping us rearrange things for the guests." He smiled and went to shower without another word. My son, the child I'd given everything for, didn't even ask where I was going to sleep. That night, I lay on the living room sofa, wrapped in a thin blanket, staring at the ceiling while everyone else slept in rooms I had paid for. The springs dug into my back, the ocean wind slipped through the open windows, and my tears soaked the pillow. I felt invisible, forgotten, discarded. Then, around 2 a.m, I heard footsteps in the kitchen. Vanessa's voice, hushed and mocking, drifted through the dark. "Linda, you won't believe how easy it was," she whispered on the phone. "The old woman paid for everything, $3,500, and now she's sleeping on the couch." My heart froze. "She won't complain," Vanessa continued. "She's desperate to be liked. And soon Daniel will think she needs professional care. Once she's in a home, we can handle everything, especially her house." That was the moment I realized the vacation wasn't just cruel, it was a setup. Vanessa wasn't humiliating me for fun. She was laying the groundwork to erase me completely. I didn't sleep a single minute after that. I lay there in the darkness, replaying every word I had heard, every insult, every plan to get rid of me. The rage inside me grew stronger than the pain. I had been many things in my life: a widow, a mother, a worker, but I had never been a fool. Not anymore. At 4 a.m, I sat up and looked toward the kitchen. Vanessa's phone was still lying on the counter, glowing faintly. She had gone to bed, probably smiling in her sleep, believing I was too weak, too old, too scared to fight back. She underestimated the wrong woman. I stood up, my knees aching, my hands trembling slightly, but my mind razor sharp. I picked up her phone. No password. Her arrogance had left it wide open. What I found inside confirmed every nightmare I had just imagined. There were messages between Vanessa and her sister, Linda, laughing about how the old woman had funded their vacation. Then, more messages with a psychologist named Dr. Ruiz, discussing a false mental health report that claimed I was forgetful, unstable, and required constant supervision. There were emails to a lawyer, Mr. Hansen, about selling my house once Daniel had legal control over my assets. And buried in a hidden folder, photos of Vanessa with another man kissing, laughing, holding hands in restaurants and hotel rooms. My whole body shook. It wasn't just betrayal. It was a deliberate plan to destroy both me and my son. I took pictures of everything, every message, every document, every photo using my old cell phone. Then I put her phone back exactly where I found it. By the time the sun rose, I wasn't the same woman who had gone to bed on that sofa. I was no longer a victim. I was a mother on a mission. Vanessa thought she was orchestrating the perfect plan, but she didn't realize that her stage was about to become the scene of her own downfall. The next morning, the house looked peaceful from the outside, but inside me, a storm was brewing. I prepared breakfast as if nothing had happened, coffee brewing, eggs sizzling, toast on the table. When Vanessa came downstairs, she smiled at me like everything was normal. "Good morning, Mrs. Brooks. Did you sleep well on the sofa?" she asked with feigned kindness. "Better than ever," I replied calmly. "Sea air does wonders for the soul." For the first time, she looked uneasy. I could see the flicker of doubt in her eyes. She didn't know what I had seen or what I was planning, and that uncertainty made her nervous. During breakfast, she turned to Daniel. "Honey, don't you think your mom's been a little forgetful lately? She misplaced her purse several times yesterday." Daniel frowned. "Mom, are you feeling okay? You've been quiet." "I'm perfectly fine," I said firmly. "I may be old, but I remember everything, especially the things that matter." Vanessa forced a laugh. Of course. Just wanted to make sure." Later that afternoon, while everyone was at the pool, I quietly made a call to my neighbor back home, Martha. She was one of the few people I still trusted. I told her everything about the phone, the messages, the plan, the fake doctor, the stolen documents. She listened in silence, then said, "Eleanor, don't worry. I'll check your house first thing tomorrow." That night, while everyone was asleep, I received a message from Martha. "Your property title was tampered with. Someone tried to take it from your drawer. I found it hidden behind the cabinet. I'm getting a certified copy for you tomorrow morning." I finally exhaled. The house that had cost me 30 years of my life was safe for now. The next morning, Vanessa grew impatient. "Mrs. Brooks, we need you to sign some documents for your health insurance," she said casually over breakfast. "It's just routine. Daniel asked me to help." I smiled. "How thoughtful of you. Let's go over them together this afternoon." Her eyes flickered with surprise. "Oh sure, but we really need to sign them today before we leave tomorrow." "Perfect," I said sweetly. "We'll have a family meeting at 4, you, Daniel, your mother, and me. I want everyone present when I sign." She froze for half a second, then nodded. "Of course." All day she watched me like a hawk. I could almost feel her fear growing. She didn't know that I had already sent copies of all her messages and photos to Martha's lawyer friend, who confirmed what I already knew. Vanessa's papers were not insurance documents, they were full legal power of attorney, giving Daniel control over all my assets and allowing them to commit me to a nursing facility. At 4:00, as the sun began to set over the ocean, I gathered everyone on the terrace. The air was still heavy with tension. My grandchildren played inside, unaware of the storm about to break. I looked around the table, Daniel worried, Marjorie confused, Vanessa smiling too wide. "Before we end this vacation," I began, "there's something important I need to clear up." Vanessa leaned forward. "Of course, Mrs. Brooks. Do you have the papers ready?" "Yes," I said, pulling out a folder. "But before I sign anything, we should all see what's really inside." Her smile faltered. I opened the folder and laid the printed screenshots on the table. "These are your messages, Vanessa. The ones where you call me a pathetic old woman who paid for everything. The ones where you plan to sell my house and fake medical records to have me committed." Daniel's face drained of color. "Vanessa, what is she talking about?" This isn't Eddie, she must have hacked," Vanessa stammered. But I wasn't done. I placed the photos of her with her lover in front of Daniel. "And these," I said quietly, "are proof that while my son worked himself to exhaustion to provide for you, you were building a future with someone else." Silence. Then Daniel exploded. "Tell me this isn't true, Vanessa. Tell me." She couldn't. She covered her face, sobbing, but the tears were too late. The truth was laid bare under the golden Florida sunset. And for the first time in years, I felt peace not because I had won, but because justice had finally walked into the room. Vanessa's world collapsed that evening. Her mother, Marjorie, sat frozen in disbelief while Daniel shouted, heartbroken and furious. When Vanessa finally tried to defend herself, her voice trembled. "Daniel, please, we can fix this. I did it for us, for the family." "For us," Daniel shouted. "You lied, cheated, and tried to destroy my own mother." Then, cornered and desperate, Vanessa played her final card. "If you report me, I'll tell the police everything about your company's contracts. You'll go to prison too." The air went silent. Daniel turned pale. "What are you talking about?" She smirked through her tears. "The government deals, the fake invoices. You and your partner hid money for years. I have the proof." I felt my heart drop. My son, my proud, hard-working Daniel, had made a terrible mistake. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw remorse, not greed. "Mom," he whispered, "I didn't know it was illegal. I just wanted the company to survive." Vanessa thought she had trapped us. She didn't understand that some people, when cornered, choose truth over fear. I took Daniel's hand. "Then you'll fix it, son. You'll tell the truth. You'll return every cent and face the consequences. Because that's what decent men do." Vanessa's face twisted in disbelief. "You'll ruin him." "No," I said quietly, "he'll save himself." 3 months later, Daniel did exactly that. He confessed, paid the fines, and served 6 months in prison. But when he walked out, he was free, truly free. Vanessa, on the other hand, was sentenced to 5 years for fraud, forgery, and attempted theft. Her lover disappeared the moment she lost everything. Today, I live peacefully in my little renovated home. Daniel has a stable job at an honest company. My grandchildren visit every weekend. We plant flowers, bake cookies, and laugh again. But most importantly, I regained something priceless: my dignity. Looking back, I've realized that revenge isn't always loud or cruel. Sometimes it's as simple as standing tall when others expect you to bow. I didn't destroy Vanessa. Life did that for me. I just stopped letting her destroy me. I learned that love should never require silence, that kindness should never mean submission, and that no woman at 67 or any age should be treated as invisible. So if you're watching this and you've ever been made to feel small, remember this: you still have power. It's never too late to stand up for yourself, to reclaim your worth, and to demand respect. If this story touched your heart, give it a like, share it with someone who needs strength today, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Because in the end, the sweetest revenge isn't revenge at all, it's living well enough that they regret ever underestimating you.